Thank you, Ms. Brzezowski. Members will be recognized by order of seniority for their 5 minutes of questioning, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. During my conversations with the firm ABB, we found out that while they supply many of the motors, drives, et cetera, software for a crane, the crane built in China is the steel structure, and then the things that operate it and move and all are sometimes manufactured in China, all right, wholly manufactured in China, and sometimes they're manufactured by other companies, some of which are Western companies, ABB being one of them. One of the things that I found most disturbing about that testimony or our conversation was that they relayed to us that ABB actually ships their motors, software, hardware to the PRC, and that by contract, the CPMC gives to them, CPMC engineers will be installing that hardware, software, et cetera, that makes the cranes go. Rear Admiral Van, is it possible that during that process, the CPMC could be installing malware, ransomware, or Trojan horses in the software that's actually provided by, and the hardware actually provided by, Western companies?
Thank you for the question, Mr. Chairman. What we have found in our activities, our operations aboard ZPMC cranes and the networks on the cranes that connect to the cranes and shore side that communicate with the cranes are either by design vulnerabilities of open connections. And again, I say by design because oftentimes the monitoring of the cranes and the maintenance of the systems on board the cranes is done from a hub outside the port or in the port land side infrastructure and then communicated to the crane through a connection. So we have found, I would say, openings, vulnerabilities that are there by design. What we have not found is instances, as you put it, of malware or a Trojan horse type software. Our concern is with the vulnerabilities and the operators that operate these cranes being aware that those vulnerabilities exist, and then considering the reporting that we've heard about PRC attempting to get onto critical infrastructure. These are obviously important nodes in our marine transportation system, sir. So haven't found that yet, but those vulnerabilities exist to be able to access what's on the crane.
That's interesting because the ABB folks told me that the crane system is actually like a closed system. It doesn't communicate with the outside world. I found that a little bit strange. Now you're telling me that no, it does communicate. It has to communicate with the outside world. A, because I would figure there'd be software updates, right? And then also the crane itself communicating somewhere and saying, hey, this is bad over here. You have to replace it. So are these cranes fully enclosed and protected from the outside world, or do they actually communicate with the outside world?
Sir, what we have found is the cranes are designed to be able to communicate with the outside world. They can be operated disconnected from the outside world, but as you mentioned, sir, oftentimes for maintenance reasons or monitoring, some of our operators will make a connection just for that activity. Others will leave the crane disconnected and have a technician come on site to access that data, and others will operate with the crane connected all of the time.
Very good. We also found that there were some modems installed in some cranes. And we were advised to know that it's still a closed system, but then why would you need a modem if it's a closed system? And it came with modems. So that I'll leave that for another day. We can discuss that another day. Another concern that I have is in the United States, 80% of the cranes that we operate in our port system are built by Communist China. If the Communist Chinese decide to embargo spare parts, what would happen to our port infrastructure? What would happen to our trade if in fact that happened? And how long will it take if there is an effect, for that to take hold?
Mr. Chairman, you're referring to spare parts for the cranes in this?
Yeah. So maybe Rear Admiral Trinca, you can answer that question, or somebody else who may this is not just about cybersecurity. This is actual spare parts for the cranes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I would have to defer to someone else on how long it would take to get replacements for those cranes.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I don't think I have a specific time frame for that particular component, but I think the larger issue here that we absolutely agree with is that we do see an over-reliance on these PRC manufactured cranes. This is not an anomaly. We see this as a concerted effort where the PRC has proven and stated its intent to be the leading manufacturer in not only cranes like this, but other types of maritime equipment. And that does introduce vulnerabilities like you're talking about, not only the cyber, but the ability to have access to the materials that are going to be necessary to maintain the smooth functioning of those that equipment in our ports.
Thank you. My time is up. Now, I now yield to the ranking member from Michigan, Mr. Thanadar.
Thank you,